Coming up on Arirang News, the number of people with jobs in South Korea is down for a sixth month in a row compared to last year, the first time that's happened since 2009, and that's not reflecting the latest coronavirus restrictions. South Korea reports 156 new cases of COVID-19, marking a full week with daily cases staying below 200, raising hopes that social distancing can be eased. And the K-pop superstars BTS are hanging on to the #1 spot on the American Billboard charts and many others. The girl group Blackpink climbing the charts too. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. We start with the latest on the COVID-19 outbreak in South Korea. The number of new cases is well below where it was a week or two ago, but on Wednesday there were slightly more than on Tuesday. If the numbers keep coming down, the hope is that social distancing can be eased. Han Sung-woo reports.
South Korea reported 156 new COVID-19 cases on Wednesday, a slight increase from the 136 cases added the day before. However, infections have remained below the 200 mark for a week now, showing an overall downward trend. Of the infections reported Wednesday, 144 were transmitted locally, mostly concentrated in the Greater Seoul area. The other 12 were from overseas. Health officials say the capital region's level 2.5 social distancing measures may be lifted if quarantine efforts are well adhered to.
There will be no need to extend strengthened measures if we can concentrate on social distancing for 5 more days until the end of the week.
But sporadic cluster infections are still popping up across the nation, including at a shipyard, a distribution warehouse, religious facilities, and a call center. Those are on top of infections stemming from last month's protest at Seoul's Gwanghwamun Square. Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun on Wednesday warned certain civic groups against holding planned mass rallies on October 3rd, South Korea's National Foundation Day.
The government will not hesitate to take action against those who hamper virus prevention efforts and threaten the safety of our society.
With Wednesday's tally, the national caseload is nearly 21,600. 154 patients are currently in critical condition, and 3 more people have died, raising the death toll to 344. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
The UK drug maker AstraZeneca has paused all clinical trials of its COVID-19 vaccine after one person had what may have been a serious adverse reaction. In a statement Tuesday, the company voluntarily put the late-stage trial on hold to review the data, but said it's working to ensure there won't be a significant delay. The vaccine being developed by AstraZeneca and researchers at Oxford University had been on track to be one of the first with results from a large trial. AstraZeneca has said before that it hopes to have a vaccine by the end of the year. Because of the resurgence of COVID-19, President Moon Jaein is stressing the need more than ever for cooperation between the government and parliament. He met on Wednesday at the Blue House with top lawmakers of the ruling Democratic Party to discuss pending issues as well as legislative affairs.
우리 여야 간의 협치 또 나아가서는 당 여야 정 간의 합의 또는 또 정부와 국회 간의 협치 이런 그 협치들이 지금처럼 이렇게 국민들이 절실히 바라는 그런 시기가 없었다고 생각합니다.
President Moon, at the meeting, the participants agreed to push for plans to provide discounts on phone bills for all citizens aged 13 and over, to provide consolation for the people that are suffering from the pandemic. President Moon also called on officials to extend a tax deduction to 50% of the rent reductions that landlords give to their tenants. And with the Chuseok holiday coming up, the government will encourage gift purchasing, not travel, though, because of COVID-19. President Moon highlighted the need for continued cooperation, with the government set to unveil the specifics of the 4th extra budget proposal at an Emergency Economic Council meeting on Thursday, as well as plans to hand out emergency relief funds to the hardest-hit people. The national security chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. have discussed ways to advance the peace process on the peninsula, as well as cooperation against COVID-19. In Seoul, the Blue House said Wednesday that National Security Advisor Seo Hoon spoke on the phone with his U.S. counterpart Robert O'Brien. It was their first conversation since Seo was appointed in July. They reaffirmed their strong commitment to their alliance and said the next few months will be critical for progress on denuclearization and the peace process. They agreed to continue their coordination on both issues and to closely cooperate on overcoming the pandemic. South Korea and the U.S. are holding a round of biannual defense talks this week, but via teleconferencing due to COVID-19. Seoul's defense ministry said the 18th Korea-U.S. Integrated Defense Dialogue takes place on Wednesday and Friday. The South Korean side is being represented by Deputy Defense Minister for National Defense Policy, Jung Seok-hwan, and the U.S. side by Assistant Secretary of Defense for Indo-Pacific Affairs, David Helvey. They'll be sharing assessments of the region's security situation and the denuclearization of the peninsula. They're also going to review progress on the conditions-based transition of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul. Another jobs report is out showing the damage the COVID-19 pandemic is doing to South Korea's labor market. The country has seen 6 straight months of declining on-year job figures. Moon Jaein has the details.
For 6 months in a row, the monthly job figures in South Korea have been worse than they were the previous year. This is the first time there have been 6 months of consecutive worsening on-year job figures since the aftermath of the global financial crisis in 2009. According to data from Statistics Korea on Wednesday, roughly 27 million people were in employment in August, but that figure is down 274,000 from the same period last year. Last month's figures do not reflect the impact of strengthened social distancing measures in the capital and surrounding area.
The report is comprised of figures surveyed between August 9th and 15th. It does not take into account the recent surge in infections after the mass rally on Independence Day.
And according to some experts, the employment figures are likely to worsen.
If the resurgence of the coronavirus is reflected in the next month's report, the figures are likely to be even worse. Also, the unemployment numbers would be higher if people who had given up searching for jobs were also counted.
The number of unemployed people was 864,000 last month, up 6,000 on year. The largest job losses were in the wholesale and retail industry, which saw a decrease of 176,000 jobs last month, or about a 5% fall on year. Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi said on social media on Wednesday that part of the fourth COVID-19 extra budget will be used to help companies keep people in work, boost hiring, strengthen the employment safety net, and create some 575,000 new jobs. Moon Jaein, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yang Jun-seok, Professor of Economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here.
Well, the sell-off on Wall Street did indeed continue. When the markets reopened on Tuesday, a decline on the Nasdaq of more than 4%, wiping out weeks of growth. What's the story in the global markets?
Okay, well, as you said, Monday was a Labor Day holiday. Tuesday, all the major stock indices for the United States went down. Dow went down by 2.25%, S&P by 2.78%, and Nasdaq, as you mentioned, minus 4.11%. This brings the stock market indices to about the level that it was on early August, so about a month growth was wiped out, and the other global markets have been following the U.S. lead. European markets were down yesterday, though they just started their market about an hour ago, and it might be a bit of a happy news. The European markets seem to be rising, but they're at the early part of their day, so we'll have to see how it goes on. The Asian markets have closed. Nikkei, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, they all went down by more than 1%. KOSPI went down by 1.09%, KOSDAQ by minus 1%. And again, they seem to be following the U.S. lead with the falling market. Now, the interesting story that's coming out of the United States is why did the tech stock prices rise so much and why did it collapse at the end of last week? And reportedly, it's the fault of SoftBank of Japan. SoftBank bought a large number of call options of U.S. tech companies, and as the tech stock prices rose, it became more possible that the SoftBank would exercise this call option, which meant that the counter side, the people who sold the call option, had to buy tech stocks so that they could hand it over to SoftBank when they exercised that call option. So these counterparts bought up so many tech stocks that it accelerated the rise in price of the tech stocks. And once they stopped buying, the rise in prices stopped. And presumably when SoftBank accepts these stocks and sells them, the prices will collapse perhaps even more. But no one expects the stock price to fall forever. They think that it will rise eventually and fairly soon. It's just a matter of when the rise will start again. And SoftBank, even though with just this transaction, they probably would have made a lot of profit, still SoftBank took a loss in the Japanese stock market, apparently because while they may have made money on this call option transaction, their investment for the last few months, including their investment in IT firms like WeWork, hasn't done very well, in large part because of the coronavirus.
It's a fascinating story there. Looking at the local economy, the Korea Development Institute has joined those who are predicting a contraction this year, and the KDI says it won't be a V-shaped recovery, but it'll progress slowly into next year. What do you make of this forecast, Professor?
Okay, well, KDI, they labeled this update as update to their May projections rather than an entirely new projection, but they did change the numbers quite a bit. The 2019 growth will fall from positive 0.2% to minus 1.1%, and next year's growth will fall from they lowered their estimate from 3.9% in May to 2.5%. So they're basically saying that the slow growth will be extended. And their reasoning is that consumption will fall by 4.6% this year, and it will not completely recover next year. Business investment and construction will do fairly well. Business investment will rise by 4% this year, more than 4% this year and next year, basically because last year's investment was so low, and semiconductors are doing well, but still it will not be able to overcome the fall in consumption, and there will be fall in exports as well. This year it will fall by 4.2%. Next year, KDI projects it will rise by 3.4%. But again, that's not enough to recover from the negative growth that we had this year. So inflation will remain weak, 0.5% for this year, 0.7% for next year. And 150,000 jobs will be lost this year. They will be made up next year. 150,000 jobs will be gained next year, so it'll on the whole net out. But there will not be any additional job growth until probably 2022. So they're expecting a very bad year this year, and next year's growth will be not enough to make a full recovery.
All right, Professor, we'll have to leave it there for today. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, K-pop superstars BTS have held on to the top spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for the second week in a row. Another K-pop group, Blackpink, also debuted at number 13, the highest they've ever reached in the U.S. Lee Seung-jae has this report.
BTS continues to ride high with their all-English hit song, Dynamite, maintaining the group's grip on the pinnacle of the Billboard Hot 100 for the second straight week. The chart, which looks at streaming, radio airplay, as well as sales data, show that Dynamite is still the most popular song in the U.S. Over the past week, the song had 17.5 million U.S. streams, sold 182,000 downloads, and drew 16 million radio airplay audience impressions, up 16% from the previous week. Dynamite also topped the digital song sales chart for the second straight week. Another K-pop song is also riding high on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It's Blackpink's Ice Cream, featuring Selena Gomez. The song, which made its worldwide debut on August 28th, debuted at number 13, a record-breaking high for the group. Ice Cream is also number 2 on the Billboard Digital Song Sales chart. Blackpink's latest success comes after peaking at number 33 earlier this year with Sour Candy and their earlier single, How You Like That, in July. With their first official album being released in early October and rumors of them collaborating with another US artist, even bigger success may be around the corner for Blackpink. 이승재, Arirang News.
And that does it for this newscast. Thank you for watching.
Behind Korea's successful COVID-19 response were thousands of volunteers